Just 4 weeks ago, the Dallas Cowboys were given a 9% chance to win the NFC East. That's not the case as we enter the final week of the regular season. The Cowboys, with a win at FedEx Field, will be champions of the division for the first time since 2021, and they'll have to do so in some conditions. The wind blowing from right to left as we get things ready for Cowboys Pregame Live. It is a chilly, windy day. Precipitation possibly in the forecast here over the next couple of hours. It's the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington Commanders. We are live from the Star in Frisco. Cowboys Pregame Live presented by WinStar World Casino and Resorts. I'm Kyle Yeomans as we take you through what could happen again. This is an NFC East that has been very driven by parity since the 2004 season. That was the last time the Cowboys had a team in their division repeat in back-to-back years. Unfortunately for Cowboys fans, it was the Philadelphia Eagles. But as you can see here, we've got year upon year for the Cowboys and the Eagles and the Commanders and the Giants to not only win the division and just trade it off back and forth. You haven't had a repeat winner at the same time. Even from 2014 to 2018, the Cowboys won 3 divisions in 5 years. That was really their best chance to repeat as champions. And then they haven't won one since 2021. That's what the Cowboys have a chance to do today with a win. They are sitting at 11-5. They could be 12-5 for the 3rd straight season underneath Mike McCarthy. And there's plenty to break down as we get you ready for this kickoff. It's the final week of the regular season. We've got Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton here. I'm Kyle Yeomans. And gentlemen, it's one of those days that you love as a football player. You get a chance to wrap up a division, achieve something special, and then more importantly, place yourself in a great spot come playoff time. Barry, what are these days like as a player?
As a player, you understand the excitement that has to deal with this matchup going into this game. You have everything in front of you. The number 2 seed, a possibility of having, 2 games at home if you're able to win that first preseason or first postseason game. So to me, this game has big aspirations and big, basically, achievements if this team is able to get the W out there, and I expect they will.
It's all about controlling your destiny, BC. We've all been there, okay? And that's the best position to be in. These guys not only had the opportunity, like you mentioned, to win the NFC East, which is your number 1 goal when you come into training camp, win your division. But once you do that, then you're guaranteed the home game. Dallas Cowboys are 8-0 at the crib this year, okay? 3-5 on the road. So it's very important that these guys have that first game at home. And as Barry mentioned, if you can take care of that first game, then you get on to that next one, and that's back-to-back. Now you're halfway there.
This is my 3rd year, I think, the same as the Cowboys here. First year on the road, 2nd year a home game, then on the road. Then the 3rd year have a shot at having 2 games at home. I'm kind of confused, but stay with me. We have a chance to have 2 games at home. I'm confused. We have a chance of having 2 games at home.
There's nothing
the players
confusing about
cannot
that, right?
get excited about having 2 games at home.
Yes, sir.
Come on, man.
Yes, sir.
Laser focus.
The thing is, you only need 3 games from the Dallas Cowboys position, okay? If you're not the 1 seed, you only need 3 games. If you are the 1 seed, you need 2 games. 3 games and you're where you want to be. So those home field games are absolutely important.
Well, when you talk about divisional round woes, this is a team that has not had success in the divisional round since 1996. I mean, it's been a long time since they've had that same sort of success. So then you've got a chance to not only be healthy, but at home going into a divisional round and going into a conference championship game. That's one way to do it. And they've been fantastic at home throughout the season. Here you look at Dak Prescott's numbers. You look at the points per game numbers allowed. Back and forth, there has been a split between playing at AT&T Stadium and playing on the road. Now, partially why there is so much of a split is because the Cowboys have been that successful at home and they've played some really good competition away from home. How important is it to wrap up the division, wrap up that 2 seed today?
It's of the utmost importance because you just mentioned it. We all just saw the stats up there, what this team looks like at home versus what this team looks like on the road. At home, this team is averaging almost 40 points per game. On the road, it's in the 20s. So to me, that's a huge difference offensively. And defensively, you look at it, this team is taking the football away at home. And we all understand what the turnover battle and the turnover stat means for a team. 9 times out of 10, you're going to win that game. So granted, you're going to this game. It's a rivalry game. You want to get this dub, but there's so much more at stake for this game. And I believe this Cowboys team and this organization understands that.
It's a must-win, and I don't care who else wants to say it any other way. It is a must-win ball game. You go out there, you take care of business. You need to win the ball game. You need to come out healthy. Those are your only 2 goals and missions that you have today. Hopefully they can check both boxes.
I don't believe in must-win games, but until this situation here arises, you win this game. You at home. I keep going back to this. You got a chance to be at home 2 times before you go to the Boombox Boys in California. Do your job today. Come on now, 1 point.
How many rings you got?
3.
Okay, so you know a little something about that.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Take his word.
Yeah,
take his word.
That's true. If you're going to listen to anybody, that's the one you want to listen to.
Yes, sir.
In any other year, you probably don't put that much emphasis on home field advantage. But this year, with this team and this head coach, they've won games at AT&T Stadium. The stats underneath us right now, 21-4 as a whole. McCarthy can lead this team to 3 12-win seasons for the first time since that 1995 with a win today. So with all of that being said, I mean, how much credit does he deserve for the way this team is played?
I think he deserves a lot of the credit, and it just goes to show how great of a job he's doing as a coach for this organization and how these players believe in the system that he has out there, because it's not easy being the head coach for the Dallas Cowboys. Every move you make, every play you call is under a microscope, and when you look at what he's been able to do with this organization, turning the culture around, this to me, he deserves at least 90% of the credit. I understand the players are going to get what they get. But to me, Mike McCarthy has turned this whole thing around, and it's great, or it's credit due to him for what he's been able to do out there, because like I said, it's not easy being the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
I ain't going to give him 90, BC, but I give him 89.9. Listen, okay, Coach McCarthy, he deserves a lot of this credit simply because of the fact, as a head coach, your job is to be managers of men. He's not only managing the offensive coaches, he's managing the defensive coaches, he's also managing the special teams. Along with those duties, he now has to go out there and call plays and game plan in that regard. Most head coaches don't have that responsibility. He does, and he's doing a great job of executing at all fronts.
You know what I admire so much? Remember 3 games in, CeeDee Lamb was a little upset. The offense was a little out of whack. He stayed poised. He stayed himself. And we watched him during the week, us guys, you know, as he does his shows, how poised he is. But he believes in his process, and his process has led us right here. So you'll have a chance to have 2 wins at home.
And luckily for his process, he has some talent to work with as well. The Cowboys finished with 7 Pro Bowlers in the initial voting. Here's the list of what the Cowboys are sending to Las Vegas for the Pro Bowl games. You've got Dak, Zach Martin, CeeDee Lamb. Then on the defensive side, Micah Parsons and Deron Bland, 2 no-doubters. And then how about, speaking of no-doubters, Brian Anger and Brandon Aubrey, the specialists getting in there. And they had T-shirts getting on the plane yesterday. It said Banger and Butter as really their T-shirts. And that's exactly what that duo has been throughout the year. I mean, how impressive is it to have these Pro Bowlers named, and then were there a couple snubs with no Tyler Smith and no DeMarcus Lawrence?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, congrats to all those guys that were voted into the Pro Bowl, much deserved. But like you said, Kyle, I do think DeMarcus Lawrence deserved a shot at getting into the Pro Bowl or getting voted into the Pro Bowl. But when you look at it overall, 7 players invited into this Pro Bowl situation, it just goes to show you the overall talent and depth that's on this Dallas Cowboys football team. And hopefully we get to see more of that as the postseason comes.
Yeah, you're talking about the depth, BC. I mean, one thing you think about when you think about this team is the defense, right? And how dominant these guys are, how much pressure they apply on opposing teams. But there's only 2 Pro Bowlers on defense.
That's crazy. 2
Pro Bowlers on this defense that's as dominant as they are. That lets you know in terms of, as you mentioned, in depth. And not only the depth of this team and how many guys are actually going out there and making plays, but also the coaching that these guys have on this staff. They are doing an amazing job of putting these guys in position, and you're asking guys who don't necessarily have all the stats in the world to show up and make plays. You know, you play a third of the game, I play a third, Big Nate plays a third. We all go out there and get the W. It doesn't matter about our notoriety.
You know what? I dog these guys out all year. Brandon Aubrey, Anger, great job. I talk about them, I dismiss them, I handle them all bad, I laugh at them, I joke about them, but these guys have helped keep us in games and also have won us games. Great job, special team guys.
They have both been weapons for this team and somebody that you can rely on going into the playoffs. Somebody else who stepped up as a weapon throughout the year has been Deron Bland. Of course, he had his record-setting interception on Thanksgiving against this Washington Commanders team, his 5th pick 6 of the season, most in NFL history. Here's what he had to say about the thoughts on the Pro Bowl and facing Sam Howell, who he picked off for that record-breaking interception.
It felt good just to be recognized with other great guys on this team, just be recognized in general, just as a guy, just be in his position in the league. So it's been good.
I know for you it's big to be a testimony for kids back home, and how important is it to be able to, for them to look at you and see, you know, you go from your upbringing to being a late round pick to being a Pro Bowler and a record setter in the NFL?
It means everything, you know. It just shows like the kids back home, like no matter what we go through, we still could have that mindset. Just so you can make it, so and do what you think you can do. So
you set the record for pick sixes against Washington the first time you played him. He leads the NFL. Hal leads the NFL in interceptions. What opportunities do you see for yourselves this week in that regard?
We're always gonna feel like there's an opportunity for a pick. So, but you know, we feel good. You know, going to the last week, you know, it's division game still, and we're still trying to find a second seed. So it's gonna feel good for the opportunities out there.
With Howell's, like Ed said, he has thrown a lot. Is it a lot of indiscriminate throws, or is it maybe they're just having to pass a lot because they've been trailing in games? What do you see with that?
I mean, you're always gonna have to pass at some point. Just the situations in the game is gonna make you pass a little bit more. But I feel like that's just who they are. They like to pass and like to run. But you know, Sam Howell has a strong arm, a good quarterback, so can't dismiss that.
So good memories for Deron Bland going up against the gentleman wearing that helmet in the Washington Commanders. He had that record-setting pick on Thanksgiving, and he's got a chance to wrap up an NFC East division title with a win today. Live on the sidelines at FedEx Field, we've got Nick Eatman joining the show for the first time. And Nick, it doesn't matter if the Cowboys are looking to win the division or just looking to win a game in the middle of the year. There are always a lot of Cowboys fans in Maryland for a game like this. I mean, do you expect a Cowboys-heavy atmosphere again here in Week 18?
Well, without a doubt, it's going to be Cowboys heavy. And I think what happened was during the week or last weekend when they found out that this game really could mean a lot for the Cowboys, I think that's where you'll see even more Cowboy fans that scooped up some tickets and bought some. Last game of the year for Washington, they lost 7 in a row. And this actually, any chance to get a chance to win the division on your, rivals' home turf, that would be pretty cool too. So I think that's where there's a lot of excitement there.
We saw some shots early in the pregame festivities about the wind. How much do you feel like the atmosphere of the weather and then also the chilliness and the wind all going to play a factor on this one?
Yeah, there's no doubt the wind's going to be an issue in this game. It doesn't matter what the weather report actually says for Landover, Maryland. What matters is right here in the middle of FedEx Field, and where it swirls a little bit. It's going to be an issue. We watched a little bit of Brandon Aubrey kick. He did a pretty decent job. He missed a couple, but for the most part, he seemed to handle it all right. But it's one of those things. The wind it'll be going for 20 miles an hour, then it stops and goes back. So I'm sure whenever the Cowboys are on offense trying to throw the ball around, we'll see what it's like. But it's going to be up to the passing game. They've got to get going, and they've got to be able to overcome it.
And there are going to be some different individuals blocking up front for Dak Prescott in the passing game. Reports coming down that both Zach Martin and Tyler Smith will be out at the guard positions today. Smith with the plantar fascia tear that he had last week. He's out today. Zach Martin with an illness. Who do you expect the starting 5 to be up front for the Cowboys, and how big of an impact is missing those two guys going to play?
Yeah, huge impact for sure. I mean, you're talking about a Pro Bowler there, and Zach Martin, not just a Pro Bowler, but I think 9-time Pro Bowler, and he's the solid core there in the middle. Obviously, with Tyler Smith out as well. The players haven't come out just yet, and so there's a little bit of confusion on who is going to be the starters. It sounds like it's going to be Brock Hoffman at right guard, Tyler Bass at left guard. TJ Bass. There's so many Tylers. TJ Bass left guard, Brock Hoffman at right guard. But Udoka didn't practice a lot. He's dealing with a toe injury. He could factor into this as well. They haven't announced the starters just yet. This morning, as you guys know, Zach Martin was added to the report as illness, but was supposed to play. Did not get better, obviously. And so I think Hoffman's going to factor into this. Yeah,
that's a huge change from Zach Martin, Tyler Smith to a couple of young individuals who are inexperienced up front. We'll definitely keep an eye on that later on. Nick Eatman will join us later in the show as well as he catches up with Cowboys COO Stephen Jones. Nick, thanks so much. Now, let's welcome Nate Newton back into the set here because offensive line, of course, has been a talking point all year long. I mean, health has been a question mark with this offensive line all year long. How big of an impact is it not having those two guys available?
Definitely. I mean, you took two most physical players in Smith and then Zach Martin. I mean, these guys are great, but I think Hoffman is a brawler. He likes to mix it up, so we can get him in there mixing it up. TJ Bass, a technician, but also a brawler. We should be all right. We should be solid enough to win this game.
There you see the full list of inactives. Really no surprise there. Maybe the one thing that could have changed from a week-to-week standpoint outside of those offensive linemen is the fact that Trey Lance could have been active and been a third quarterback on the roster so they could use him in a late game scenario. Also, something to note, Jonathan Hankins is active for the Cowboys, so an opportunity there for possibly to stop the run, have him in the interior of that defensive line, something to keep an eye on. But let's keep the conversation on the offensive standpoint. Tyler Smith or Zach Martin, which one is there a deeper drop-off to?
Zach Martin.
Okay,
no, Zach Martin.
That's easy. I don't even have to finish the sentence here, huh?
Yeah. Zach Martin is so essential to what we do, especially with the center and our right tackle. That right tackle, Zach is his crutch. When things are not going right, Zach give him a little tap, say, hey, man, it's okay. Recompose yourself, get your technique back right. He talks to his right tackle, and he keeps still in line. And the center also feels real strong when you got a guy like that sitting there.
And on the opposite side, you have TJ Bass, who's played well in a couple of games in filling in for Tyler Smith. Tyler Smith has missed 3 games this year, so it's not the first time that he's been inactive. What do you expect out of TJ Bass, the rookie, undrafted rookie out of Oregon?
He's just going to play hard. He's going to play consistent. He's not going to give up nothing easy. If you get a sack on him, if you get a hit for a loss, you're going to have to work for that. This kid is a baller. He's a gamer. And I tell you what, man, just look at this guy's future. It's bright. I mean, it's bright.
He's continued to show that even if somebody were to go down at either of the guard positions, you have a serviceable backup. It is going to be different. How does this change things from Dak Prescott's perspective?
Oh, man, the middle may be just a little bit softer, whereas you have these other two guys that Dak can step up in the pocket and move to the side and all of that. He may have to give a little bit, throw off that back foot just a little bit more, you know what I'm saying?
Hopefully it doesn't upend things too much. Dak has been playing very well. The footwork has been good all season long at the same time. Let's flip to the defensive side. Another name not on that list, along with Jonathan Hankins, was Dorrance Armstrong. Showed up in the middle of the week with an ankle injury, said he got rolled up in practice. He is good to go. Do you expect him to see a full number of snaps today?
No, I need for Sam Williams to step up, be disciplined, and step up. I need Dante Fowler to step up. What Armstrong brings is some consistency versus the run. He can get after the passer too, but he brings a little bit more consistency versus the run.
And that's something that Dallas has needed, especially against the team that can run the football like Washington, right?
Definitely. Washington, they got this Robinson kid, and I'm glad they don't like to run him because he is a beast, 6'1", 228. Boy, he can get downhill and he can catch coming out of the backfield.
Both Brian Robinson Jr. and Antonio Gibson are available for Washington today, and we'll talk about that 1-2 punch a little bit later on in the show. Another man missing for Washington, though, Jonathan Allen is out today. How much does that help the interior of that offensive line?
Hey, when I saw what was possibly happening on our end and not one of the Bama boys going, thank you, God is looking down on us.
Okay, well, how much does Daron Payne, his running partner, the other half of the Bama boys, have to step up in order to challenge this Cowboys offense?
He's got to control the middle now. Before it was, both on both sides of the center. And so now you have no run game. If they decide to play, you have no run game. But now you got one guy trying to control that middle. It ain't going to happen. Not today.
No, and it is going to be interesting to see the young inexperience up front. But that was the strength of their team with Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne for Washington. That was the strength of the Commanders. It doesn't look like it's as much of a strength as it once was without Allen in the middle. Now, we've seen a couple of Cowboys step up in big moments throughout the season. TJ Bass and Brock Hoffman have an opportunity to do so today. But Jordan Lewis has done that over the last couple of games. And with more on that, let's go to our very own Nicole Hutchison.
Kyle, it feels good to see Jordan Lewis hitting his stride and playing some of the best stretch of football of the 2023 season. And it just so happens that one of his best performances of the year came against his hometown team, the Detroit Lions. And it's just a full circle moment for him considering last season he faced a career-threatening injury, foot injury at that. And he caught up with me earlier this week just to talk about the road to recovery.
I was so happy, man. I got the interception, and then I got up, and I'm like, what's wrong with my foot? So I'm thinking like it's like an ankle sprain or something like that. I'm trying to walk on it. Yeah. I can't even put pressure on it. Then I looked down and I said, oh man, that's not good. We got back to the locker room and they told me like, yeah, this is season ending. So we didn't know how severe it was until we got to the ER, and they told us, like, we got to have surgery right away.
How challenging was that experience for you? Because, I mean, of course, a lot of athletes don't want to ever experience something like that.
I mean, it was definitely, it was a lot. It was a lot I had to go through. I mean, it was more so like just the pain of it. I mean, on the front end of it, just, you know, just waking up every day and just, you know, just that agonizing pain, man, just getting up and knowing you can't move, you can barely go to the bathroom.
How did you manage to stay fighting? What kept you positive?
I mean, I love the game of football. I had stuff to prove, you know. I wanted to prove that, you know, I was one of the best nickels in the game, and I got that pick. I had the, you know, that burden off my back, and then I got hurt. So, I mean, I think I was playing pretty well. I mean, our coach, Joe Witt, told me that I was playing some of the best ball I've had. You know, I didn't have it stat-wise, but, you know, I was, you know, doing really good.
Speaking of Joe Witt, you had Al Harris and DQ come to your front door.
Yeah, Cannon Matthews, everybody came.
You had the whole crew.
Everybody, the whole crew came. Yeah.
What did that mean, and how important was that for your recovery?
I mean, it meant a lot, because I mean that means I was still a part of, you know, of the secondary, you know, a part of the defense, and and they were thinking about me, you know, along the way.
That's dope. That's dope. And Britt Brown, I read where he had kind of mentioned. Let me read this exactly word for word. Probably a lot of guys who wouldn't come back from that experience, but I knew Jordan Lewis would.
Yeah, he gonna make me cry. That's my guy. That's my guy for sure. I mean, Britt been my guy since I got, you know, since I've been drafted. So I mean, I had a hamstring tear, so in my rookie year, and then I was with him all the training camp. So, I mean, we built a rapport there, and ever since then, you know, we've been real tight, you know, and he really saw, like, the fighter that I was.
Where does that fight and that chip on your shoulder come from?
I mean, I was always the small guy. You know, I was always the smaller guy, the overlooked guy, and I always had to work hard to, you know, be in a position to be considered, you know, one of the best.
Being not that typical prototype of a corner, how did you manage that adversity? Because it kind of negated some of your playing time.
Just remember who I was, you know, just remember what I did to, you know, to get at that position, and just go out there and work, honestly. Work my tail off, and know that I was talented enough to be in this league.
How much has facing all of that adversity helped shape who J. Lou is today as a player?
I mean, not even just a player, as a person. Honestly, it definitely helps to go through things like that, and especially when you can go through it and you know you can thrive through it, you know. So like a lot of times people just, you know, just go through the motions and just let things happen. It's just, you know, that's a character thing to me, whereas I'm like, I'm not gonna let that, you know, define me.
Jordan Lewis has stepped up in a big way over the last 2 weeks. You talk about 2 weeks ago against Tyreek Hill and the Miami Dolphins, last week against Amon-Ra St. Brown and the Detroit Lions. It's a different look this week with this trio from Washington: Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel. Still some weapons for Sam Howell in this Washington offense to throw the football around with, as we've got Isaiah Stanback, Barry Church here. Jordan Lewis will have one of those matchups again. It's not going to be easy. Isaiah, I'll start with you on this one, but where is this Washington team weapon-wise compared to some of the other teams Dallas has faced in the past?
I would say they're in the upper echelon in my regard, for my opinion, I guess. The receivers, okay, these guys are all the same style of receiver. They're all very quick. They're all very capable, and with the guidance, obviously, of Eric Bieniemy, they can be a threat. The only reason why they haven't been more of a threat this season is because of the fact the offensive line has been getting Howell hit inside the back of the head. Howell, obviously, with the 61 sacks this year, he hasn't had time to put his foot on the ground and be able to get the ball out. These guys like to push the ball down the field. Eric Bieniemy likes to push the ball down the field. So concept-wise, their offense is very nice. They just can't get the ball out. So obviously, if they don't have the time to distribute the ball, then those receivers, you'll see that stat line. That's why McLaurin has almost as good a stats as the other two. But I think they evenly distributed in terms of the touchdowns.
What does that do from a defensive back mindset, knowing that pressure will be there up front? Do you play maybe a little bit more on your toes, knowing that there's going to be an opportunity here and there?
Yeah, when you're looking at a defense, and I play behind one of the best defensive lines in the history of the NFL when we had in Jacksonville with Calais Campbell and those guys. And when you know Saxonville, exactly. When you know you can get after the quarterback and rush his decision by only rushing 4 defensive linemen, I mean, it makes your job so much easier because you know those routes don't have a lot of time to develop. You know you don't got to worry about, you know, a big-time post coming at you or a big-time dig coming right in front of you because you know the quarterback doesn't have time to sit back there and do the 5-step that drop and read everything like that. So you know the ball's got to come out quick. So to me, when I was playing with those type of defenses, I'm sitting flat-footed, and I'm letting you know if you whatever break you make, I'm jumping it. And that's how a lot of these teams get a lot of interceptions, and that's how the Cowboys are eating in the secondary as well.
Does that help you whenever there are weapons like McLaurin and Samuel on the opposite side?
Of course, because you don't want to give guys like that with that athletic ability more time than they need. All right, if they have, 2.5 seconds out there, that's great. But if they have anything longer than that, it's hard to cover a receiver in the National Football League for 2 seconds. If he got 4 seconds out there, he's willing to go get touchdowns. So to me, having that defensive line rushing these quarterbacks and making it a lot easier for the secondary for the Dallas Cowboys.
And Sam Howell has been nothing but under pressure.
Coming down on me.
28th in the league in terms of pressure allowed this season is the Washington offensive line. 40% of the time, Sam Howell has been pressured this campaign, and that's led to a number of interceptions. They have put up good yardage, 3,800 yards really for Sam Howell this season has been phenomenal. Even the completion percentage isn't the worst in the league. He's just had all sorts of traffic to sort through, Isaiah. How tough is that for a quarterback?
Yeah, it's almost impossible. I mean, you see it right there. I mean, he has 20 touchdowns and 19 interceptions. We saw what happened last year when Dak was under pressure, and he had 15 interceptions. So you can imagine what he's under right now in terms of the duress. When you're a quarterback and you have the weapons and you have a great offensive coordinator and you have a solid running back, but you can't establish a run, you can't throw the ball because you don't have the time, that's something that's an impossible mission. And you could best believe that's going to be what they try to address this offseason.
Yeah, when you talk about Sam Howell, I think this guy's a talented quarterback. I think he can get the job done on most teams that have a protection for him. But in 2023, I just feel like he got beat up. I mean, when you look at it, 61 sacks out there, that's a lot of sacks. And to me, that had a lot to do with his league-leading 19 interceptions out there. So when you talk about this matchup with Sam Howell versus the Dallas defense, I expect this defense to dominate them once again, and I expect them to talk Sam Howell into not one, but multiple turnovers today.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because this Dallas Cowboys team just so happens to rank first in the NFL in pressure rate from their front seven, and then, of course, ranking first in pressures this season, none other than Defensive Player of the Year candidate Micah Parsons. These are his numbers through the first 3 years of his career. It's nothing short of incredible what he's done on a consistent basis. He has been that guy for the defense. It really starts with Micah. Can he have a big day today, Isaiah, and maybe put himself back in that Defensive Player of the Year conversation?
I think we heard earlier in one of the clips, how focused he is on trying to get back there and get those sacks. He wants to get out of that 13 number. But the reality is, we've had this debate before on the show, sacks versus pressures. He leads the NFL with 98 pressures. And if he can even just get some pressure on Sam Howell, I think he's going to force some potential turnovers. A lot of times those defensive linemen, even when they don't get all the way home, the defensive backs becomes the benefactors of that. So you win holistically as a team. So whether Micah gets in that sack category or not, I think that this defense has a huge impact on him.
Yeah, I expect Micah to once again continue his dominance over Washington. I mean, when you look at it, I've been in those type of locker rooms where the season hasn't gone to where you want it to go, and there's no postseason to get ready for. So I think that when you look at these players, a lot of them probably mailed it in. And as an organization, you understand that they're going to start playing those young guys to get them reps to go into the next year. So when you look at this matchup, I expect Micah Parsons to go out there and dominate this offensive line once again. And, when you look at it defensively, you might as well throw in a couple takeaways as well. Why not?
That is something to keep an eye on, because Micah Parsons and company, he has a chance to put together his candidacy today. He has that one final chance, that one final stamp of approval to the rest of the league to say, I am capable of being Player of the Year, and I should be Defensive Player of the Year. So, Barry, I want you to come on camera here.
Okay.
I want you to take this one shot. I want you to give me your reasoning why Micah Parsons should be Defensive Player of the Year.
Kyle, I want to look into this right here. I'm looking straight into the camera, and I want to say things to get Micah Parsons to be able to be Defensive Player of the Year, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
What? No, you're trying to plead your case here.
Well, the case is gone. All right, I'm telling you right now. There's just too much going on when you talk about rushing from the other side of the football, like a T.J. Watt, like a Myles Garrett. To me, there's just too much to overcome. Can you have all those pressures? Of course, but when we come down to it, we all understand what it is. It's sacks when you come into this game, and you're 6 sacks behind the guy. It's just not going to happen. I'm sorry, Micah. I'm sorry to everybody out there.
I just tried to.
It's just not going to happen.
Isaiah wants a shot
happen.
at it. Let's see what we can do here. Isaiah, save us.
Here, come here, right here. I need this one shot right here. Listen here. My name is Micah Doggone Parsons, okay? I am the Lion. I lead the doggone pride. Understand me? When I'm not on this field, this defense is not the same. I am the one player in this entire NFL that nobody can match up with one-on-one. Yeah, I'm the one guy that you have to be concerned about when I step on the field. You know why? Because even if I don't get a sack, I'm going to get a pressure. 98 of them, matter of fact. I'll go ahead and cross the 100 mark today just to ensure that you guys recognize game. You know what I'm saying? TJ Watt, yeah, he's a beast. Bosa, yeah, they're a beast, but guess what? They don't have the impact that I have. I bet you I get home more than they get home. Tell that. You understand me?
Man. I love it.
Thank you
I
very
think
much.
he believes he was Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
For a hot second. He was straight into it. He was playing a role. I like it.
That's facts.
Are you?
That is facts.
Interesting.
That's facts.
That's that Big Ten love. That's that Washington and Penn State love, back and forth, right?
That works.
Yeah. He's cheering for his Washington Huskies tomorrow. That's what it is. All right. You talked about Micah being focused in on the task at hand. It's not all about winning Defensive Player of the Year, but it is about winning today. And he talked about the possibilities of playing a Washington team that wants to play spoiler. Here's what he said earlier in the week.
It's always dangerous to go against someone who has nothing to lose. You know, they can pull out all types of tricks and gambits and gambles because they want to make a statement. We just want to beat the Cowboys. And, you know, like I said, their back's against the wall. They want to see what they have for next year and prepare for that. And, you know, we got to go and make a statement and say we are the better team, we are the more dominant, aggressive team, and we just got to prove that Sunday.
Do you use last year's games as a kind of an example of what can happen?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everything that could have went wrong last year when we went down there. Obviously, there needs to be some tweaks and changes doing that this week.
Have y'all talked about that a lot this week, last year's game?
No, you know me, Combs. I don't care about last year. I just focus on what's up next.
How can you guys build confidence playing on the road with a win this week, and how do you think that could play towards in the playoffs if you have to go back on the road?
You know, hopefully we just go out there and win. I feel like confidence at this point, it shouldn't even be about confidence. It should be like everyone should just know out and go out there and do their job. This is your job. We are a team. We need to go out there and play together and be as one and go out there and get a win that we should win. I think that's what it's about. I don't even think it should be about confidence. We're a week away from playoffs. I'm tired of learning and growing. It should just be about dominating and playing great football.
So Washington has the opportunity to play spoiler against Micah Parsons and the Cowboys today, but we're going to take a look at some of the scenarios here with a little bit of math class. I mean, you guys were big mathematicians back in the day, right?
Yeah.
I was
sure.
not. Yeah, that was not my favorite subject. That's why I'm a broadcaster. We've got playoff math here. This is something we can all get behind. Here's some of the potential opponents for the Cowboys, and this is, of course, with a Dallas win. We're going to assume Dallas is winning in these scenarios because if they lose and they fall to the 5 seed or the 3 seed, the possibilities really get out of hand. So here are the possible opponents, at least to start. Green Bay, the Rams, the Seahawks, and this is the simplistic side of it initially. These 3 teams will play later in the day around the same time the Cowboys will be playing. We've got some opportunities there. Based off of these three teams to start, who would you rather see out of these 3?
Oh, give me Green Bay.
Why is that?
Give me Green Bay because I feel like Green Bay is one-dimensional right now. I think that obviously they have a really good quarterback in Jordan Love, but I think he's still unsure of himself. They're still trying to figure things out. They have the running backs in the backfield, but they're not as effective with those guys. And I think that our defensive line can get home all day and cause some havoc.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree with you a little bit there, Mr. Isaiah Stanback. When you look at it, Green Bay, what has this defense struggled mostly against? Quarterbacks that are athletic with big arms. That's exactly what Jordan Love brings to the table when you talk about it. We understand what they got in the backfield. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, big bruising backs, a big combination. So to me, I'd rather see this Rams team. Out of all this math, algebra, geometry, whatever you want to call it, I like to see the L.A. Rams because they have a stagnant quarterback back there, and that's exactly what this Dallas defense eats more than anything else. It's quarterbacks that are statues in the backfield. They've done it already this season. I think they'll do it again.
Who out of these teams would you want to not see the most?
Seattle Seahawks.
Are you there too, Barry? Or
Ooh, I'm going Green Bay. I do not want to see Green Bay. I do not want to screen Green Bay, but Seattle, they're 1B. They're right there.
Yeah, and remember, these two went at it a couple weeks ago, and Cowboys beat the Rams earlier in the season. That was a different Rams team, just by the way. That is one of the hotter teams in the NFL. And then the Seahawks, they won in a tight one, 41-35. So this is not the only possibilities. I know all at home are saying, what about the rest of the possibilities? Well, now we're going to go from playoff math to playoff algebra. It gets a little bit more complicated when things get crazy. You're out of here, out of algebra guy. We've got Green Bay over here losing. That's the first thing that really throws a wrench into it. You've got Seattle over here losing. And then right now, it looks like both the Saints and the Buccaneers are going to win. So we can go ahead and just cross this scenario out of here. The Bucs are currently leading. The Saints are leading big. And even then, the Vikings, they haven't been really playing very well either. So really, these last two are here. The Vikings, by the way, are down by 7 at the moment, says our producer, Caden Gates. With the Saints possibly winning here, you can cross out the bottom 2 scenarios. So this one could still come to fruition, though. The Cowboys and the Saints, what do you think about that possible?
I love that matchup. I love that matchup. I don't think that there's anything that New Orleans does that has a threat to Dallas. Nothing. Offensively, nothing. Defensively, nothing. I think they play hard.
Kamara?
Nothing. No. I think if you're at the Superdome, then it might propose a problem just because of the environment. But if you're at the crib and you're playing against the Saints, I'm taking that all day long.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. Whatever, type of math we got to do to get the Saints in there, I'm all about that. Defensively, they may produce a little bit of a problem, but offensively, they don't have anything for the Dallas Cowboys defensively. Yeah. When you look at Derek Carr, the turnovers he's had out there, I just don't see it. Give me the math that puts the Saints here at AT&T Stadium.
Well, you've got 2 of the steps. It looks like out of the way early. Both of these games have to come to a conclusion first, and then you've got 2 other pieces that would have to fall into place a little bit later on. So we've got some algebra, we've got some math. Either way, it's very simple for the Dallas Cowboys. Win today and get the job done. And, of course, you want to look at some of these teams along the way that you could see. Do you feel like the Cowboys have an advantage over everyone the Cowboys would see in the wild card round?
I mean, the only team that I feel like would give Dallas some real problems is just Seattle. And that's just because that I feel like Seattle can actually slow down what Dallas does offensively. And that's the reason why I think it's a problem. They have a 3-headed monster at receiver. They have 2 good running backs. And then when you flip on the script on defense, they have more defensive Pro Bowlers than Dallas has defensive Pro Bowlers. And we know how good Dallas's defense is. So when you talk about being able to match up against CD and B. Cooks, and they have the guys to personnel-wise to do it, it just comes down to scheme.
Yeah, earlier on I was saying, Green Bay. But my boy Isaiah, man, you kind of swayed me a little bit out there. When you talk about what Seattle brings to the table as far as 2 corners on the outside that can match up with Cooks and can match up with CeeDee Lamb on the outside, that's what Seattle presents. And we saw what they were able to do in AT&T Stadium. So to me, I'm going to lean a little bit towards Seattle and say, hey, that might be the team that we don't want to see first round.
Listen, guys, if they win today, if the Cowboys win today, and they're the 2 seed and they're playing at home, give me Dallas against anybody.
Against the field.
Give me Dallas against the field.
8-0 at the crib.
Confidence. 8-0 at home.
Okay.
I get the challenges in the playoffs.
Sure.
They're all good teams. Dallas is going to be the better team in week 1.
I'm with you on that.
It'll be fun, though. It'll be fun either way to get it done. And part of the reason why they've been so dominant is Dak Prescott throughout the year, taking care of the football. He talked about really some of the changes he made in his game this offseason that has allowed him to be successful. Let's take a look.
No, not really. At that time last year, I knew this is who I am. Just as I talked about then, some things were tough. Balls weren't going exactly the way I wanted to. Some crazy bounces here and there, and some tight throws that weren't working in my favor. Then your occasional bad interception, which has still happened this year. So I think it's just really, for me, it's just about staying true to myself, keep working, and not allowing other people's opinions, critics, really affect my game or the way that I approach this.
If you finish as the league leader in passing touchdowns all by yourself, you'd be the first Cowboys quarterback to do that. What would that mean for you?
It's numbers. I think I've had a year where I've had more touchdowns than this as it is, and did I lead the league then? I don't think so, and I'm not sure. So it's numbers, it's stats. It's part of it. That's why I don't get caught up in that stuff. A lot of great quarterbacks that were injured this year, unfortunately. Yeah, I just work to be my best each and every day and make sure the guys around me are, and numbers are numbers. I don't get caught up in them.
There's a look at the current NFL leader in passing touchdowns. He could be the first Cowboy to ever lead that category outright if he does end up as, of course, the leader at the end of the day. He has 32 touchdown passes. Next up on the list is Brock Purdy with 31. Here are some of the other numbers throughout the 2023 season that have helped set Dak Prescott apart. Completion percentage, yardage, that touchdown to interception ratio, second in the NFL. And then, of course, that passer rating also second in the NFL. What has been the difference for Dak Prescott this year, Barry, when you look at how he really struggled at times last year to hold on to the football, and he has not at all this year?
Yeah, I think it comes down to two things. I think, one, the offensive system that Mike McCarthy put in there, the Texas Coast, West Coast, whatever you want to call it, definitely helped him out. But also, when you talk about Dak Prescott, it's his decision-making. I mean, him going out there, going from 15 interceptions to 8 interceptions, and just being great with the ball as far as ball placement is out there for his receivers, giving them an opportunity to get yak out there, I think is a huge beneficial to what he's been able to do this year as a quarterback.
I think there's probably three things. I think it comes down to the system and the footwork, right? Both of those things working in conjunction with each other. I think it's his decision making, and I think the third thing is he's being decisive when he wants to get the ball to somebody. When he actually determines that he's going to release the ball and get it out, this dude is making a clear decision. He's not double pumping like he did last year. He's not second guessing himself. He's not confused. He knows where he's going with the ball, and he's getting the ball in the hands of his playmakers, and they're going out there and doing just that, making plays.
And all those things these two guys said is so true. And confidence is what's doing it. He's seeing that he's being successful. Now he believes that it's with the choices that he makes as receivers when he's trying to deliver the ball, he can be confident in his throws, and that gives him timing. And so now we got a perfect Dak.
Now, Nate, the stats might not show it as Dak Prescott's best season, depending on how, of course, today goes. He could throw for 1,000 yards today. But whenever you look at how this season has gone in its totality, is this his best season as a pro?
It's his best season because, number one, he has a chance to lead his team back here to Dallas for 2 playoff games. Number two, this is the 3rd year in a row that he's going to be 12-5. You know what? This is his best year because 32 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. If he can walk out of there with just that, yeah, winning is the whole key for a quarterback, not so much the stats, winning consistently.
Yeah, definitely. The W has to come with it, right? You can't judge a quarterback unless you actually factor in the win column. But you take what he had to overcome last year. Those 15 interceptions, he obviously cut those all the way back to 8. Hopefully it stays at 8 after today's game. But that is a huge turnaround. And then you just talked about it, Nate, putting your team in the best position to go out there and win a 4-game stretch in the playoffs. That is what he has done. Now he just has to take it and transition it all the way into the playoffs.
Yeah, I believe this is his best season that he's had with the Dallas Cowboys. I look back to his rookie season, when we were 13-3 out there, but he didn't have to do as much. He had, Zeke in the backfield being able to be all-world running back, and all he had to do was play action pass. This year, I think he's had to do a little bit more. He's had to be basically the shoulders of this offense out there with no running game to look at. So to me, he had to do more, and he was more productive. And to me, overall, this is his best season that he's had a star on his helmet.
Plus, in 2016, he had Barry Church leading the defense.
That's a fact.
I mean, there was a defense that he could rely on all the way through. Nothing against this current defense. They're pretty darn good, too. Now, how special has CeeDee Lamb been as a part of this whole equation? We just got done with math and algebra. Now we've got an equation for it. Dak plus CD equals TD is what it seems like. He's had 12 touchdowns this year. He's already broken the receptions and receiving yards record. I mean, Barry, when you look at this combination, how special is this for Cowboys fans to get to see?
I mean, it's unbelievable. I've been around a lot of great receivers in my time. Some of them have worn the 88 jersey as well. But when you look at what CeeDee Lamb brings to the table, not only is he unbelievably athletic and he can make all the one-handed grabs and all that stuff, but his football IQ is outstanding. What he's been able to do with this quarterback and Dak Prescott kind of be that security blanket that we see most tight ends being able to do. But for him to be able to understand how defenses are going to try to attack him, how they're going to try to double team him, triple team him, and he's still able to go out there and put up the yards he's able to do, he's become that man out there, and to me, the #1 playmaker on this Cowboys team.
You've played with some really good receivers. I've played with 2 of the best 3 ever to do it, and that's Randy Moss and Terrell Owens. And the way in which you thought that you needed to get those guys the ball, that's what you're starting to sense with CeeDee Lamb. And not only are you feeling that, but they're actually finding a way to get the ball in his hands. This dude has 122 receptions. This dude is leading the NFL in that regard. He's second in receiving yards behind Tyreek Hill. They have got the ball in his hands. He's doing a lot with the ball in his hands, and they're going to continue to feed him the rock. Even it required him asking for it.
He's special, man. I mean, this kid, I've been watching him ever since he came out of Oklahoma in the Big 12. This kid was special back then. He's special now, and he ain't playing a little bit of running back. This dude is special.
He really has had an incredible season, and something I think Cowboys fans should probably take a moment and just appreciate it, because it has been really fun to watch what CeeDee Lamb's doing and the way he's grown in this offense. You can't necessarily say the same thing about Tony Pollard in his franchise tag year, though. It really has been a downtick for Tony Pollard. You look at the 2022 numbers, the 2023 numbers, they just haven't lined up the same way. Isaiah, I'll start with you on this one. What is the blame? What is the blame for Tony Pollard and really the downtick in his yardage this year?
Yeah, you know, we hit on it earlier in the weekend special edition in a little film room segment where we touched on, is it just Tony Pollard or is it the offensive line? Is it the system? I think it's a combination of all three. I honestly, truly, genuinely don't believe that there's anything wrong with Tony Pollard aside from the fact that he's not as confident this year that he was last year. And that's because the situations that they're putting him in. He's running in between the tackles more than he ran last year. That's not his comfort zone, but he's learned how to do it. He's blocking more this year than he did last year. He's a lot more effective than he was the year before, but he's still making it happen, right? So they're asking him to do so much more, and by doing that, I think they've taken away some of the abilities and some of the ass that they have placed on him in recent years.
You know, I felt when with the first 2 or 3 games when you was banging him up inside, that was not fair to him. Our offensive line has not been as good as it's been in the past years. Tony is an outside guy. He's a screen guy. He's a receiver. We have not used him effectively. Our offensive line has not played his best.
Yeah, to me, the biggest difference from last year to this year is simply the explosive plays or the flashy plays that we were seeing from Tony Pollard last year. He doesn't have that tenderizer and Zeke to be able to, you know, kind of get the defense worn down, and he comes in there and he has these explosive plays. But when you also look at it, you got to look at play calling a little bit as well. You know, last year he was getting those wheel routes up the sidelines. He was getting those reverses. He was getting those screen passes. And like Nate said, a lot of it this year is in between the tackles, and that's just not his style of running back. You know, nothing against him or, you know, McCarthy in the play style, but that's just not the type of running back he is overall. So hopefully, you know, when this postseason comes around, we get back to that explosive plays from Tony Pollard. But this year, it's been slightly disappointing.
Barry's on the free TP bandwagon right now. He's trying to get him outside the tackles, get him to the numbers, let him run around a little bit, have some back and forth, and certainly it could play a factor in the playoffs. If he gets going, this team has a balance that they haven't had all year long. Now it begs the question, which one are you more concerned about? The run game for the Dallas offense or the run defense for the Dallas defense?
Ooh, that's a tough one, but I'm going to go with the run defense.
Wow.
For the Dallas Cowboys.
Even with Jonathan Hankins back?
Even with Hankins back, because when you look at it, the teams that they're going to have to go against to make this run happen in the playoffs, they're all physical teams. They're all downhill teams that with even Hankins in the lineup, teams have been able to go ahead and crease them a little bit. So I'm more worried about that than the fact that Tony Pollard hasn't been the Tony Pollard that we've seen from the past, because we still see this offense put up 40 points. We've still seen this offense put up a lot of points with Tony Pollard not being explosive as he was. But with this defense, when you can run on them, we've seen a slippery slope when that comes around as well. So I'm a little bit more concerned about the defense.
Yeah, that slope is slippery, and Barry, we don't want anything to do with that. We want to make sure that this defense is shored up, okay? That's where we have to go. Offensive teams with the ability to run the ball are going to do that. They're going to milk the clock. They're going to keep Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, everything we've been talking about, keep those guys off the field. And if you can shut down the run defensively, then all of a sudden you funnel teams in the game plans into what you do best, and that is making them pass and you utilizing your pass rush, and now your DBs can go out there and get turnovers.
Fellas, run the rock. Tony, run the rock. Find a way, Coach McCarthy, to get this guy the ball so he can run the rock so we can control time possession. Like Isaiah said, if we control time possession, Parsons will eat.
That's the thing, is it kind of coincides back and forth. The games where teams have been able to run the ball effectively and run downhill a significant amount, they haven't been able to run the football. Teams where they're playing ahead and you're able to kind of put teams out of their momentum and out of their game plan, that's whenever they start throwing the football, trying to get back in it, and your defense can get after it. So somewhat they play kind of a factor back and forth, and time of possession is a good indication of how that is going. Now, time of possession will be an interesting battle today because this is a Washington team that likes to run the football as well. We talked about some of their weapons on the outside. Here's one of their weapons in the backfield, Brian Robinson Jr. Nate, you talked about him early on. What have you seen from him this year that could play a factor today?
Thank you, Eric Bieniemy.
Okay.
Because if you'd have handed this boy the ball 300 times, y'all record would have been different. This dude is a beast. He's 6'1", 228 pounds. He got 300 yards catching. Man, this dude could have easily had 1,000 yards. But thanks to you, Eric, We don't have to face it.
Thank goodness.
Thank you, Coach EB. Listen, these guys have a nice two-headed monster, and this isn't the first time the Dallas Cowboys defense has faced a nice two-headed monster. These guys obviously have Robinson, they have Gibson in the back, and we know what he's done to Dallas in the past. These guys are just being underutilized, and this is not the system that is in Washington Commanders for these type of running backs. It's nice to have them, but if you're not utilizing them, then you might as well not have them or their production, and they do not have their production right now. Hopefully, Dallas can shut them down today.
Yeah, this is still a buckle your chin straps, big boy shoulder pads type of game you're going into. Because like you said about Brian Robinson, he's downhill with it. And even though these players in Washington don't have a lot of incentive to win the game, you want that draft choice up there. The coaching staff up there is probably going to get fired. And all the players up there understand that. But they're playing for the name on the back of their jersey. And if they have any respect for themselves, they're going to go out there and give their A game. And we all know Brian Robinson, he can be a train out there. So to me, this defense, bring your big boy pads, bring your chin strap, and get ready to roll.
It's going to be physical. It definitely will be. Based off of holding the Dolphins and the Lions underneath their season average running the football these last 2 weeks, does the Dallas defense have a bit of momentum going into this game?
I would say so. I would say they have a little bit of momentum going their way, especially after the performance they had against Detroit. When you talk about a dangerous duel like that, I don't think they've seen a dangerous duel like that the rest of this season unless they see them in the playoffs. So for me, they do have a little bit of momentum in that way, and hopefully we see it this afternoon against the Commanders.
I don't think that they have momentum, but I do believe that they're encouraged because they got big boy Jonathan Hankins back. Yeah. Big 9-5's back in the middle, and I can't wait to see his impact on this team. The reality is, and BC can attest to this, the second level and third level defenders for the Dallas Cowboys, linebackers and safeties, have to come up and be physical. Right now, there's a lot of hesitation. These guys are not being deliberate. They're not being decisive. Once you see a hole, shoot the hole, live with the results.
I got confidence. Miami, 91 yards. We slowed down Detroit. I got confidence, fellas. All we got, big Jonathan Hankins back, just holding up everything. I got confidence. We're going to hurt these guys today. Yes, sir. Yes,
That's
sir.
the thing is you can continue building that confidence. You're going to have to face teams in the playoffs, no matter if you're at home or on the road, that can run the football. So building that momentum going into the playoffs will play a huge factor. Let's check in at FedEx Field where Nick Eatman now catches up with Cowboys COO Stephen Jones.
Thank you so much, Kyle. And yes, we're here. Windy field conditions at FedEx Field, and with Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer. And we expected the last game of the season is going to be cool, windy. It could be worse, but this is still going to be something this team's going to have to get over here.
This is actually pretty good compared to what you can get this time of year on the northeast coast. You can get some snow.
Saw the Patriots.
Saw Baltimore last night right down the road. But no, this is what it's all about. I mean, it's an NFC East game. We know we're going to get their best shot. They always play us tough here, and obviously a lot at stake and a lot on the line for the Cowboys.
Talk about your offensive line. I mean, a little surprised this morning to hear about Zach Martin getting sick and then not playing, obviously with Tyler Smith as well. What's your confidence level with the guard position right now?
Well, we really like our guys. They've worked hard all year. Obviously, Bass is ready to go. He stepped in several times this year and done great work. And then Hoffman's going to get a great opportunity here. I know we're big fans of his. He'll battle, and he knows what to do. He'll get his assignments done, and, we feel good they'll step up.
Your defense on the other side of the ball, they the last couple games have played really well against some of the playoff teams. What do you like from that side of the ball in defense?
Well, I just think it's going to be great to get Hankins back. Obviously he was missed in terms of, helping plug those holes against the run game. But in general, I just feel like our guys are ready to get after it. They're going to, historically this season, the Commanders have slung the ball around and fully expect them to do it again. And we just need to get after them and do what we do best, create turnovers and make some big plays.
The win last week and Philly's loss as well has allowed you to not even really scoreboard watch at all. You can just focus on this game. Will you do that at all? Will you keep an eye on that? Do you even need to?
We're worried about what's at hand here.
Yeah.
It's important, obviously. This game's huge for us in terms of securing home field, and we want to take care of our own business.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer. Kyle, we'll throw it back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Nick and Steven. FedEx Field hosting the Dallas Cowboys again, and I'm sure it's going to be a Cowboys-heavy crowd out there in Landover, Maryland. Back here with Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback. We've got Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Glad you're with us. And, of course, before we let you go, 3:25 kickoff on Fox. we've got to give our keys to the game. How did the Cowboys wrap up the division and get the job done today?
Win a turnover battle. You know, they were able to do that last week. They got the dub, so go ahead and do it this week and walk away with the number 2 seed.
3 big plays offensively and 2 turnovers defensively.
Just make sure you get out of there injury-free and win it by 1 point and come on home and get these 2 home. Come on home, man.
That's the one thing. You got to stay healthy. You want to come home. You want to have all those things work in your favor, but win the division. My thing, and it goes along with what Nate was just talking about. Wrap this thing up early. Don't allow Washington to get off to a hot start and get any sort of confidence and build and start playing for their coach, playing for their team. Like Barry said, playing for the name on the back of the jersey. Put them away early, then let the confetti fly.
Hey, I love it. Yeah.
In terms of winning the division. We'll have post-game coverage coming your way after the final whistle right here on DallasCowboys.com. We've got Cowboys Game Night. We've got Cowboys OT and the First Word presented by Dr. Pepper. Enjoy the game, everybody. Tune in to Fox. It's the Cowboys and Commanders, a chance to win the NFC East on the line. DeMarcus Lawrence and company getting the boys ready. We'll see you in the postgame.